Horror Planet, where horror memories live. Shock till you drop, where more horror stories are. Screams 2. It was a hot summer night, and Karen was excited to be spending it with her friends at a sleepover. They had all gathered in the basement, with blankets and pillows spread out on the floor. They had been chatting and giggling for hours, but as the night wore on, they began to feel restless. That's when someone suggested they play the Ouija board. At first, Karen was hesitant, but the others convinced her to join in. They placed their fingers on the board and began to ask questions. Nothing seemed to happen at first, but then the planchette started moving on its own. The girls were frightened but intrigued, and they continued to ask questions. The spirit that they had contacted claimed to be a young girl who had died in the house many years ago. The girls asked her all kinds of questions, but as they continued to play, the atmosphere in the room grew increasingly tense. Suddenly, the planchette spelled out the word, "Run." The girls looked at each other in terror, but before they could move, they heard a sound coming from upstairs. It was a low, rumbling growl, like nothing they had ever heard before. The girls huddled together, too scared to move. But the growling grew louder and more insistent. Suddenly, something crashed through the basement door, and a huge, snarling monster burst into the room. The girls screamed and tried to run, but the monster was too fast. One by one, it pounced on them, tearing them apart with razor-sharp claws and crushing them with its massive jaws. Karen was the last to die, her screams echoing through the empty house. The monster stood over her broken body, its eyes glowing with a sinister light, as it savored the taste of fresh blood. No one ever found out what happened that night, but the house remained empty for years, a dark and foreboding presence looming over the neighborhood. And every so often, late at night, the faint sounds of screams and growling could still be heard coming from the basement.